Joaquin is the author of The Woman Who Had Two Navels. This novel entails Philippine patriotism and manhood. Filipino readers consider this novel as one of the Philippine classic books. Joaquin is not only a novelist but also a poet, playwright, essayist, and biographer. His other literary works largely adhere on Philippine culture and heritage. The novel recounts the story of Connie Escobar, an elite woman who is hallucinating and deeming that she has two navels. She holds a supposition that she can only be mended by an aberrant person. With her eccentric endeavor, she consulted a horse doctor instead of a medical practitioner. This certain scenario provokes textual ambiguity. On a related note, Suarez goes on elaborating that the event in the fictional narrative makes reader to interrogate. Why does she consult a veterinarian when she is not an animal? One of the characteristics of this book, which reviewers and critics will consider its downside, is the author's characterization of the protagonist. Bernard infers that the hallucinating demeanor of the main character leads to the deformation of philosophical vantage of the story. For Pablo, this novel, on the other hand, is a vivid picture of moral decadence. The opening scene of the story takes place in Hong Kong. Perhaps, Joaquin uses his place to delineate historic linkage between Hong Kong and the Philippines. Tracking the Philippine history, Emilio Aguinaldo, a revolutionary leader during the Spanish colonial era, agreed to an armistice of Biak na Bato. In exchange for amnesty and democratic reform, he and his compatriots concurred to surrender their arms and accepted expatriation to Hong Kong. More so, in his self-imposed exile, Rizal befriended many educated people in Hong Kong. In fact, many critics and reviewers consider Joaquin as the forerunner of the historical ideals of Rizal. In historical fiction, in addition, the plot of the story is based on a genuine event in a period of history. The scenario when Connie comes to visit an extraordinary person to surgically remove her second navel limns local identity and reality. Filipinos tend to pamper and gamble on speculative things. In fact, the colonial mentality is still very influential to the psyche of the Filipinos. This mentality resembles and interconnects with the disposition of the lead character. Like Connie, most of the Filipinos, if not all, deem that a foreign medical doctor is better than the local one. There are external and internal conflicts of Joaquin's masterpiece which mirrors the typical dilemma of an ordinary Filipino. One of the external conflicts of the story is when Connie condemns her mother after making an affair with Macho Escobar, her husband. She is also ashamed with her father's ill demeanor. According to some critics, her troubled youth triggers her hallucination. This external conflict evokes Connie's internal struggle. She could hardly move on from her past. The conflict of the story analogized the colonial era to an infirmity. Connie's belief of second navel serves as a nurturing link between the time of subjugation and to the current situation of the Philippines.